Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time the question comes to us from Crossfire34, who asked, "Hey Thor, I randomly found a video on Mary Sue's last night and it got me thinking about Rey again. It was then I remembered hearing something about the novelization of The Force Awakens saying the reason Rey was able to use the Force and beat Kylo Ren was because she basically Force downloaded all of Kylo's knowledge in the interrogation scene. If this is true, I consider this the worst thing the sequel trilogy did. Why bother to train younglings and Padawans when they can Force download all of Yoda's knowledge? What's your take on this?" And first of all, no, none of this happens in the novelization of The Force Awakens. That's all wrong. It actually happens or gets explained to us in the novelization of The Last Jedi. At one point in that book, Rey reflects on what happened to her during the mind probe scene from the previous film. And before going on, I'll just read the part of the book in question and we'll then go from there. After he'd immobilized her on Takodana, Kylo had taken her to Starkiller Base to pry her memory of the map to Luke out of her head. He had probed her thoughts, sifting and sorting, and seen much that she would have kept from him and anybody else. Her desperate certainty that her abandonment on Jakku had been a mistake or a grim necessity that would be put right by her lost family if only she waited long enough and patiently enough. Her terror and despair that she was deluding herself and would spend her days in solitude, ending up as anonymous bones in the sand, her dreams of an island amid a trackless ocean, the very island on which she now found herself. Kylo had rummaged through her hopes and fears, things he had no right to, but as he searched, something had changed. Even as he callously rifled through her mind, he had somehow revealed his own. Rey found herself in his mind even as he invaded hers. She felt his rage, like a ruinous storm that filled his head, and his hatred and his lust to dominate and humiliate those who had wronged him. But she also felt his hurt and his loneliness, and his fear that he would never prove as strong as Darth Vader, the ghost who haunted his dreams. Kylo had retreated at finding Rey in his head, had practically fled from her. But that had not been the end of that strange, sudden connection. She had seen more, far more. Somehow, almost instinctually, she knew how he accessed some of the powers at his command, even though she didn't understand them. It was as if his training had become hers, unlocking and flinging open door after door in his mind. But now Rey couldn't shut those doors, and she feared what had been set loose. Kylo had urged her to let him be her teacher, had pleaded with her almost. She had rejected him, only to be rejected in turn by Luke. Alright, so there you have it. According to the novelization of The Last Jedi, Rey, at least partially, learned how to use the Force by, to put it bluntly, downloading some of Kylo's training. That, in theory, is how she knew not only how to do things like use a Jedi mind trick, but that it's even a thing to try to use in the first place. It's also, I guess we can assume, how she was able to defeat him in a duel at the end of the film. She had his training, after all. And why, just kinda in general, she picked up everything so quickly, keeping in mind it once took years to train someone in the ways of the Force back in the days of the prequels. Which, of course, is something that the question brought up. If such a thing is possible, why would Jedi ever bother training somebody the old-fashioned way? Why wouldn't they do things Matrix style and upload it right into their brain and skip over all that?
I know Kung Fu.
And of course, there are two very good reasons for that. The first being, and I think we can assume this, is that this was only possible because of the Force dyad between the two of them, between Rey and Kylo. One that, yes, was alluded to in The Last Jedi, and then confirmed in The Rise of Skywalker that there is a special connection between these two. Now, I'm not saying that's a great reason, but if you can pass objects through or across time and space, why the hell not just be able to download each other's, well, not just memories, I guess, but practical skills and abilities? Though how and why that dyad came about in the first place between them, why the Force picked them, I suppose, it's not something ever touched upon in the films. It simply is, though I suppose we can guess that the Force made it so because it knew their destinies would be intertwined or something. Anyway, the other reason why Jedi wouldn't do this, why they wouldn't just, say, upload Yoda's training into the mind of every youngling, is that, well, there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom.
I should think that you Jedi would have more respect for the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Basically, there's a difference between knowing something, or in this case, having the ability to do something, and knowing how to use it properly, or having the wisdom to wield the Force the right way or for the right reasons. In fact, I'd argue the biggest and most important part of Jedi training isn't necessarily learning how to use the Force, or how to do things like a Jedi mind trick or Force pushing and pulling. Not saying that stuff is exactly easy to learn, or that it wouldn't take plenty of time to master some of these abilities, or perfect things like lightsaber stances, for example. But once you learn how to, say, use the Force to move a rock, it's not a stretch to assume you'll learn how to do similar things fairly quickly. Instead, as I was just kind of saying, the bulk of training probably centers around controlling one's emotions, not suppressing them as some believe the Jedi do, but rather experiencing them and then only embracing the right ones like compassion, not letting yourself be ruled by negative ones like anger that lead you to make purely selfish decisions, or rash or impulsive ones that may do something like satisfy your need for vengeance.
And not just the men, but the women and the children too.
All the things that lead you down the dark path, essentially, because the dark path is the quicker and easier one to power.
Vader, is the dark side stronger?
No. But busier, more seductive.
Basically, it's easier to get mad and do what you want or to seek out a favorable outcome for yourself than it is to stay calm and figure out what is the best course of action overall and then to carry it out. This again is what I think Jedi must learn. This is what the bulk of their training revolves around. Not countless hours practicing how to move stuff with the Force or how to mind trick someone, though sure, there's obviously some of that, but that's not what it's all about. And so, along with this, my biggest issue with Rey isn't how powerful she seemed to be, or how quickly she learned to do things, or should I say that she downloaded the training from Kylo's mind. I mean, yeah, that's stupid, but gaining that knowledge and or ability doesn't bother me as much as never acquiring the wisdom to go along with using it. That at no point does she seem to learn what can lead to the dark side. She's never even warned about it, yet is never truly tempted by it, or has any kind of moment where we fear she may fall to it. And yeah, I know in The Rise of Skywalker there's like this 10-minute stretch after she learns that she is a Palpatine where she kind of fears she may fall to the dark side because of who she is or who her grandfather was, which gets wrapped up with a quick pep talk from Luke soon enough. But it never feels like she's truly tempted by the dark side. We even have this moment where she kills Chewbacca for like 3 minutes before we find out he's still alive and well, and she kills him with Force lightning, or seems to. As if, I don't know, Force lightning is like some kind of inherited Palpatine ability or something. Or it's an ability that Darksiders just stumble into figuring out. But in that case, with that ability, it's kind of implied you do kind of need to know what you're doing to learn that one. That it's a bit unnatural to shoot lightning bolts out of your fingertips. Hell, we don't even see Kylo ever use it, so we can't just assume she downloaded that from him. But anyway, my biggest issue with Rey and the sequels on the whole has never been that she's super powerful. That could have actually been very intriguing had they leaned into it the right way. If that had been an actual sort of obstacle to overcome instead of something she just used to always win. Not only is it just not very compelling for her to be so powerful without a downside, but it misses one of the most fundamental parts of Star Wars. That power is very alluring, and again, it can lead you down the dark path and turn you to it.
Someday I will be. I will be the most powerful Jedi ever.
However, at no point does all that power she possesses ever truly tempt her. The dark side never truly tempts her, despite how quickly and easily it all comes to her, despite her never gaining the wisdom to go along with the knowledge or ability that is so easily given to her, to the point where she, again, literally downloads it into her mind. She learns how to use the Force in 30 seconds, but somehow that's not the quick and easy path Yoda warned us about. That is by far my biggest problem with Rey, that the sequels miss some of the most important things Star Wars tries to teach us, that, well, with great power comes great responsibility, and that something earned is more valuable than something given to us, that hard work, discipline, and sacrifice can be great virtues, especially for those with power and thus potential for great good, not just for the self, but for the whole, for the greater good. These are some of the core lessons of Star Wars, and they are nowhere to be found in the sequels or with Rey when there's actually the perfect setup to go into all of these things and more, which makes me want to go back and do something that I started doing years ago at this point, and to start it over and then to actually finish it this time. I want to, as part of my shift to again do more creative style content, I want to go back and start over my series on how to fix the sequels. I'm going to take the movies, trying to keep them more or less as is in terms of their rough outline, and show how I would have done it instead, how little things changed here and there could have probably made a big difference. And no, this isn't going to interfere with my Ahsoka series, my full rewrite of that series. The next part of that should even be up in the next day or so. But anyway, for now, that's all I've got for you this time. So now it's your turn to tell me what you think of my idea to go back and redo the sequels, or take to the comments below and tell me what you think about Rey overall. Was there a huge missed opportunity with her and her power? Should it have been something that tempted her and that it would have made for a better story if she had been tempted more by the dark side? Whatever you think, leave those comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.